Chapter 89. Wow, did people really tell you all that? Folks we met outside didn't even bother to say a word. How on earth did you manage it? It's different when a group of men in black uniforms come asking questions and when one person approaches in a non-threatening manner. Gakane chuckled as he plopped down on the chair near the bed. At any rate, you have a sense of what's happening now, right? I think the reason Devron disappeared might be due to Zakhael. Hearing Jimmy's reduction, Gakane's eyes softened. That's what I'm thinking too. When Yudir returns, let's confront Zakhael directly. Sounds good. Gakane and Jimmy's gazes met, holding mutual understanding as they both lapsed into silence. Jimmy couldn't hide his admiration for Gakane as he let out a small sigh. Gakane, you said you are an alpha, right? Alpha? Yeah, that's right. I'm envious. At the sudden expression of envy, Gakane blinked quickly, his face a picture of surprise. What of? I heard from others in the cavalry. They said that if you manifested a second gender, you suddenly grow much taller. Were you like that? Height? Gakane repeated, perplexed. This was the most peculiar question he'd encountered since revealing his second gender as Alpha. Well, not really. My height didn't change much from before I awakened. I'm not sure. I heard that Ever, who joined the cavalry not long ago, is still growing after her awakening, and the commander is really tall. The commander? Yeah, that's true. Gakane contemplated, recalling the figure of Commander Kishir. While Gakane himself was tall enough to stand among average men, Kishir was physically remarkable. Normally, extremely tall individuals tended to appear clumsy, but Kishir's physique was as perfect as if it were sculpted by a god, only evoking a sense of overwhelming awe. Although Gakane still often found it difficult to fully realize the fact that he had manifested a second gender, the commander had the power to make even such an unusual fact seem utterly natural. It felt as if Kishir's second gender manifestation was an extraordinary blessing in itself. Gakane remembered the immense and overpowering aura of Alpha he felt when he first saw Kishir on the podium. He had met quite a few comrades who had manifested as Alphas afterward, but none were like Kishir. He was that kind of being. The commander is of imperial lineage, so he probably had that physique from the start, most likely. Really? Jimmy, do you want your second gender to manifest? Gakane carefully addressed Jimmy, who then nodded with a gloomy face. Why, you'll grow taller as time goes by. The boy, whose eyes were hesitant about whether he should speak up, faltered for a moment before opening his mouth. I think my parents are overly worried because I'm young, but I don't want it to manifest just yet. I don't want it to hinder our mission. Your parents? Oh, you said they live nearby. Didn't you visit them during the recent holiday? At Gakane's question, Jimmy shook his head. I had been staying at the house of my father's friend who lives in the capital. My parents had asked me to. Why? Gakane, who had been about to ask why, recalled the words spoken to him by the bandit chief who had introduced himself as Nahan and faltered. As if Jimmy knew what Gakane was thinking, his gaze darkened. My parents told me that because the shop is very busy, even if I take a sudden vacation like this, I might not get to see them. I thought they were telling the truth, but thinking about it now, I guess they weren't. When I sent them a letter, my mother told me that the next time we meet, it would be when they came up to the capital for business. I guess they didn't want me to come back to my hometown. In the south, where Gakane lived, the atmosphere wasn't particularly hostile towards the awakeners, so it wasn't easy to find words to comfort Jimmy. Gakane hesitated, then decided to give him some honest advice while stroking the boy's head. Just because you exhibit a second gender manifestation doesn't mean you have to grow taller, and just because you get bigger doesn't mean you have become an adult. Your parents are wise people. They will surely be okay. So don't worry. And if you're truly concerned, talk to the commander or Yudhir. They will definitely help you. Ah, and of course, I will as well. How about we stop by your village on our way back? That's okay. Don't you want to see your parents? Didn't you say it's only a few hours from here? A slight change in schedule shouldn't be too much trouble. So tell me honestly. No, really, I'm totally fine. Jimmy, who quickly shook his head, looked up at Gakane with an awkward smile after a moment. Thank you for not saying that my worries are too childish, Gakane. You can act more like a child if you want. It would have been nice if my siblings were even half as mature as you. As Gakane deliberately sighed deeply, Jimmy's eyes widened in surprise at his unexpected words. You have siblings? Yeah, I have 5 of them. Wow, I'm an only child, so I never known what it's like to have siblings. It's not as great as you think. It's incredibly noisy and they fight all the time. There's never a moment of peace. Gakane thought of his younger siblings who would be at home by now. He hadn't seen their familiar faces this vacation, but he was okay because he knew he would see them eventually. That sounds like the cavalry's atmosphere. At Jimmy's words, Gakane chuckled. Indeed, it's not so different from the cavalry. I wonder what Yudhir is like. Does Yudhir have any siblings? Yudhir? You know, right? You are the closest with Yudhir. The conversation had suddenly veered towards Yudhir, but seeing Jimmy's sparkling eyes, Gakane soon acquiesced. Throughout this mission, Jimmy had been completely enthralled by Yudhir's strong appearance. It seemed natural to want to know about Yudhir, given his behavior, which was much like a puppy following its master. Closest with Yudhir, I'm grateful if that's how it seems. Gakane honestly wasn't sure if they were as close as it seemed. In Gakane's eyes, Yudhir was a mysterious figure with deep eyes that made it hard to guess his age. Yudhir hardly ever spoke about himself, and he was extremely reticent, always appearing like a solitary figure amongst the crowd. Despite this, it was strangely inevitable that he attracted other people's attention, possessing an overwhelming strength. It was only natural that he first earned the admiration and envy of others. Of course, it changed after it was known that he was a considerate person who didn't hesitate to risk danger for the sake of the cavalry. But still, Yudhir was a mysterious person. Despite being of humble origin, he had no hesitation in leading others. His power was so strong, it was terrifying to even question the extent of his abilities. Could such power really come from such a young man who was only 20 years old? If Kishir Laor was someone who felt like a being above humans created by the gods from birth, then Yudhir was different in another way. Yudhir was essentially a manifestation of the strength that Gakane had long desired. Because of this, Gakane was fascinated and held a strong interest in Yudhir. Although Yudhir didn't seem to show more interest in Gakane than he did in others, it seemed like he didn't dislike him either, and that was fine. Gakane considered himself to be quite persistent. Yudhir probably doesn't have any siblings, That's what I have heard. I see. There is a similarity between Yidhir and me. Jimmy, who was smiling happily, suddenly looked out of the window and then suddenly got up. Gakane? Over there. People are coming out and pointing at something. What? Gakane also immediately got up from his seat and headed towards the window. Just as Jimmy had said, the villagers of Harton, who had been going about their business all day, were gathered around the castle, pointing and looking at something. Gakane realized that their gazes were not directed at the castle, but something beyond it, and felt an odd sensation. Could it be? At that moment, someone pounded fiercely on the door of the room they were in. Is anyone in there? What's the matter? A fire. A big fire has started in the back mountain. It's similar to the one Devron caused. The one who was pounding the door was a young servant. Seeing his terrified face, Gakane rushed out of the room. From the window of their room, they could look down on the village, but they couldn't see the mountain on the opposite side of the castle. When they went out of the corridor and looked out of the opposite window, there indeed was a massive pillar of fire shooting up from the mountain. Seeing the maids and servants from the castle all gathered together trembling in fear, Gakane grabbed one of them and asked, "When did the fire start?" Just now." "Where is Lord Zakil now?" "He's gone out with the guards." The fact that Zakil had gone out with the guards meant that he too hadn't anticipated this situation. Gakane said he understood and turned to look at Jimmy, who followed him. "Jimmy, let's go." "Do you think that fire is a signal from Yidhir?" Jimmy asked in a voice so soft that only Gakane could hear. "I'm not sure yet, but it's clear that something has happened. Did you bring your practice sword?" "Yes." Jimmy showed the small practice sword he had on his waist with a stern face. "Good, come here." Gakane lifted Jimmy with one hand and summoned his shadow clone. The servants, who saw the black shadow rising from beneath his feet, started screaming and running away. "It's a monster." "A monster, huh? That's harsh."